Commas are used in a variety of contexts, including introductory elements. We want to make sure that you're able to use the commas effectively in this and other contexts, so let's learn. First, we want to understand the purpose of an introductory element. Its main job is to establish the context or conditions of the main clause so that the reader has a clear understanding of the context in which that main clause is operating. Special note, all introductory elements are closed out with a comma. Now, introductory elements begin with an introductory transition, and there's three kinds. The first is adverbs, the second is prepositions, and the third is conjunctions. With respect to adverbs, their job is to demonstrate how the verb or action in the clause relates to the sentence that preceded it or the sentence that came before it. For example, we might say Burger King is royalty, however, comma, Ronald McDonald is just a clown. In this case, we have the adverb however, and that is closed out with a comma. Now the reader sees that and they know that the action that takes place in the second sentence, Ronald McDonald is a clown, is a contrast to the verb of the previous sentence, Burger King is royalty. Likewise, we can use it to show a consequence. New York Fries has fresh cut fries, therefore, comma, I prefer eating there. Again, we have the adverb therefore, it's closed out with a comma, and now the reader knows that the action in this context, preferring to eat there, is a consequence of the sentence that came before. The second kind of introductory element is a prepositional phrase. Prepositional phrases begin with a preposition, obviously. They create context for the clause that follows and sometimes link it to the preceding sentence. Example, in the fall, comma, Starbucks has pumpkin spice lattes. That preposition in shows the relationship between the element that follows, in the fall, and the main clause that comes after. And we of course close that out with a comma, so now the reader realizes that Starbucks is selling those lattes in that specific time frame. Likewise, we could begin by saying on Tuesdays, KFC used to sell 2 pieces of chicken and fries for a toonie. Hashtag bring back Toonie Tuesdays. Inflation is killing us for sure. Now, in this context, we have on, which is a preposition that shows a specific date, right? So the reader now knows that when we close that out with a comma, the clause that follows occurred or occurs on that specific time or on that specific place. Finally, we have subordinate clauses. Introductory clauses at the beginning of the sentence create context for the main clause and are going to be subordinate. The conjunction, which will be a subordinated conjunction, alerts the reader that there are two clauses and clarifies the relationship between them, specifying that that first clause is a subordinate element. Example, because I like to think outside the bun, comma, I often order chalupas from Taco Bell. Now we have the word because that shows a consequence, but it also establishes that there's going to be a clause. We close that clause out with a comma, and in between, the reader now knows there's going to be a subordinate clause that provides context and helps explain the main clause that follows. I often order chalupas from Taco Bell. Alternately, we might say, when I want something spicy, comma, I go to Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. Again, we begin with the subordinated conjunction when, we close out with a comma, and the reader knows everything in between is that subordinate clause. And this clause explains or supports the clause that follows. I go to Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. So, quick summary. There are three kinds of introductory elements: adverbs, prepositional phrases, and subordinate clauses. In this context, a comma will be used to close out each of these so that the reader can see where the introductory element ends and the main clause begins. Without that comma, it can be very confusing. Hopefully that was clear. If you do have any questions, leave them in the comments section below. We'll get to them as soon as possible. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.